It is Friday, the 1st of September 2023, and we're looking at the waning supermoon, former blue moon. It was a blue moon on August 30th. That is the second full moon in a month. At least that's how they are defining a blue moon these days. There's different definitions for the blue moon. And this is a comparatively recent one, and possibly even an erroneous one, according to information that I learned recently. But nevertheless, we these days call the second full moon in a calendar month a blue moon, and it was a blue moon a couple of days ago. I'm going to have to readjust this because we're already running out of frame space here, so we're going to do a little readjustment in terms of framing. And we are actually looking through a newly acquired, shall we say, vintage lens. So we're looking through an 800mm f10 Bosch and Lomb, essentially a mirror lens. I think it's a, well, it's definitely a mirror lens, a reflecting lens, as opposed to a refractor. What type of mirror lens it is, I'm not 100% sure, but it's two mirrors, and I think it does have some glass lens elements in it. And I acquired it earlier today. I stopped in at the Maison de l'Astronomie on Saint-Hubert Street in Montreal, just a little south of Jarry Street. And as I was just window shopping, and I asked them if they had a telescope in the 800mm to 1000 and something millimeter range that wasn't expensive. I'm going to have to reframe here. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to let it rise into the frame. So, as I said, I just stopped in. I was in the area for other purposes, and since I was in the area, I decided, let's stop in at the Maison de l'Astronomie. And essentially there just to look, you know, I wasn't there to buy anything. I didn't think I could even afford anything, other than, you know, maybe a filter or something. And as I said, I think it was actually the owner. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but it was the owner, as I understand it. And I just asked him, you know, if there was a telescope in the 800 to 1000 something range that wasn't expensive. And he showed me a 1600mm telescope, quite a large mirror telescope on a tripod, and the telescope was, I think it was like $650 or something, which is very reasonable for a big old telescope like that, but out of my price range, especially right now. And then he said, I got this in a few days ago, and it was this 800mm f10 Bosch and Lomb lens. And it's, I won't say tiny, but it's quite compact and small compared to your typical 800mm lens. It's about 8 inches long, and about not even 4 inches in diameter. And he offered it to me for $80. So what was I going to do? I couldn't say no to a 800mm lens for 10 cents a millimeter. Okay, so we're going to reframe here. So I don't have a tracking mount. Maybe one day I'll get a tracking mount, but for the time being, we're just going to have to reframe, but a tracking mount, you know, like an equatorial motorized tracking mount can easily cost $1,000 or so. So what we're doing, just to make it clear, is we're looking through this 800. Oh, did I see a flashing light? I thought I saw a flashing light there. In any case, yes, I guess I did. I guess an aircraft went through the scene. So, getting back to the monologue, you know, he offered me this Bosch Lomb 800mm f10 mirror lens for $80. You can't say no to that. You can't say no to a 800mm lens for 10 cents a millimeter. And I wasn't expecting amazing optical quality. And it's not amazing optical quality, but it's more than adequate. It's more than good enough. I'm very happy with my $80 Bosch Lomb 800mm lens. Now, in order to take photographs with it, I did have to buy a adapter for T-mount, and that was another $25 odd. But, you know, for $110 odd, look what we got here. So there's an aircraft coming in above the moon. I'm going to just pop the camera up a bit. There it goes. Yeah, you saw the light go through. And the moon is actually moving up into some clouds, so that could get interesting soon. But I am just feeling very satisfied with the $110 I spent earlier today. I mean, look at that. Look, you can see the craters, the Maria. It's reasonably sharp. It may not be absolutely tack sharp, but it's sharp enough for $110, don't you think? Excuse me, I can't complain here. You know, because you can spend thousands and thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars on an 800mm lens, you know, or an 800mm telescope. You know, easily you can spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, and if you're going for like a high-end telephoto lens, let's say an 800mm 5.6 lens, which is only 2 stops brighter than this one, you're looking at multiple thousands of dollars, even on the used market. You know, try finding an 800mm 5.6 Nikkor or Canon lens for under $4,000 or $5,000. So I'm happy. I can't complain here. You know, yes, that Nikkor or a Canon lens might be a tad sharper, but much bigger, much heavier. I'm really impressed with the compactness of this lens, and we're going to reframe again. One thing I really like about this lens is, particularly once you've removed the camera adapter from it, you know, once you remove the T-mount adapter, it's quite compact. It's I think I said earlier, I don't think it's even 8 inches. I think it's like 7 or so inches, the basic lens. And then you can add another 1.5 inches or so for the adapter. And that's the length. The diameter, it's, well, 80 millimeters. Figure it out. You know, what's 80 millimeters in inches? You know, it's not even 4 inches. It's closer to 3 inches than 4 inches. So it's 3-something inches by not even 8 inches once you take off the camera adapter and you stash it away separately. You can pop this into a backpack and bring it with you. You know, try doing that with a 800mm 5.6 lens or similar focal length telescope. So I am very, very happy that I happened to stop in at the Maison de l'Astronomie today. I will say that the staff there are great. They're very helpful. There's no pressure, like they're not pressure selling or anything like that. If you ask them a question, you'll get an answer from them. So yeah, this is essentially an endorsement of Maison de l'Astronomie on Saint-Hubert Street. I'm sorry I don't have the address memorized, but they're just below Jarry on the west side of Saint-Hubert Street. And I can't be happier. So the moon did pass through some clouds, but if I had exposed for the clouds, the moon would have been washed out. So much for that. But I just honestly am quite happy with this purchase here today. Seriously, we're talking, let's say 80 and 25 is $105. I think it was a little bit more than that with taxes and everything. But seriously, what we're seeing here, what we're looking, oh, I see an aircraft, and it might actually, okay, I guess it's going to go below the moon. But it's coming across. I thought it might pass over the moon, but it looks like it's going to go below it. But in any case, seriously, like, I'm going to put this up on YouTube. You can listen to me yammer away here. So, one more time. Bosch Lomb 800mm f10 80 centimeters diameter lens. 80 millimeters diameter lens. Apparently, it's a rebranded lens. Apparently, it's a lens manufactured by someone else that Bosch Lomb put its name on. Believe it or not, for only 1 year. The production run, if you want to put it in those terms, for Bosch Lomb began in 1992 and ended in 1992. So very short so-called production run, but we're really talking about sticking the Bosch Lomb name on a different brand telescope. Anyway, just Google it. You'll learn about it. Okay, got to readjust here. And raise the camera a bit. I should perhaps give some technical information here. So right now, the lens, it's rated as an f10. So on my camera, I've rated it as an f11. We're at ISO 800, which is a high ISO, but these days it's not a very high ISO. It's sort of a somewhat high ISO. On this camera, you can easily go up to 6400 ISO, which is 1, 2, 3 stops more sensitive. Other cameras you can go well. I mean, even this camera you can go higher, but it's getting noisy. But 800 ISO, reasonable noise here. F11. That's not changeable. It's a straight f11 mirror lens. You cannot change the aperture. The shutter speed's a 30th of a second. Quite low, but when you have the camera mounted on a tripod and there's not much wind or anything, there's no sources of vibration, then a 30th of a second will do it. And you can't go much lower than that because, your frame rate is, 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second. I think I have my camera set for 24 frames per second, which allows me to use a 30th of a second. But anyhow, So this is basically, I suppose, a plug for Maison de l'Astronomie in Montreal, and this, lens telescope from the late 1980s, early 1990s that I got with the Bosch Lomb name on it, but apparently was sold under a variety of other names, other brand names. And I think there were a few variations on the lens too. I think they had a 1000mm version. But I highly recommend it, especially if you can get it cheap like this. This is not a lens that you're going to spend a whole bunch of hundreds of dollars on in any case. It's not an expensive lens. Like even, I haven't thoroughly researched it because I only got it today and I didn't even know it existed before today. But I would not expect the price to be much more than a few $100s, no matter what. And I would say it's worth every penny of that. But I, luckily enough, got it for 80, literally 10 cents a millimeter. What can I say? So yeah, we're coming up to the end of a 20-minute video clip, and I will say that the moon is a little brighter than it was earlier. We have some smoke haze for sure. Earlier it was low on the horizon. It was almost red, deep orangey red, and then as it rose higher it got orange and yellow, and now it's okay, it's hit the top of the frame. I'm not going to readjust the camera. We've only got about 3 minutes of recording time left. I'm just going to let it run out, but I'm just pissing around here, just testing it out, and honestly, you cannot go wrong. You cannot go wrong. If you can get this lens for even a few $100s, let's say 300, it's a good deal, I would say. Yes, if you spend thousands of dollars, you might have a somewhat sharper lens, but it'll be much bigger, much heavier. You will not be able to just pop it into a moderate-sized backpack with a few other cameras and lenses. You'll almost need a bag for the lens itself. So one of the aspects of this, okay, I guess I will reframe. So this is the thing with 800mm, it's actually quite powerful, like the moon moves through the frame. Okay, I forgot to mention that I did set the lens, not the lens, sorry. I set the I'm a bit sleep deprived, excuse me. I set the camera to APS-C size. So we're actually looking at the equivalent of 1200mm because there's a 50% or 1.5 times crop factor in APS-C format. So if I had the camera set for full frame, well, the moon would be smaller. So that's another reason why it's moving through the frame so quickly. I forgot that I had done that earlier tonight. So yes, right now, I should mention that the sensor is cropped to APS-C format. It's a full frame camera. It's a Nikon D810, but it's only looking at APS-C size. So yeah, and I see I have like 25 seconds left, so we're done here. But seriously, buy this lens if you can find it. You cannot go wrong for a few $100s. You have a nice compact 800mm f10 or 11 telephoto lens.